gotta let this go. I gotta let this go. I got to get this off my chest. I gotta get it off my system. I usually do not make these type of videos, but for this, I have got to get this off of my chest. And what better way to talk about it with you guys, fellow Bear fans, fellow football watchers. And even if you're not, you get some insight to what going on in Bears Nation is going on with the Bears world. What is wrong with the 2023 Chicago Bears? There are so many things that you can point at. There are so many things that you can get to. I'm going to start with the number one issue with the Chicago Bears. A lot of people might not think this way, but I do. I say ownership is problem number one. Well, the Bears have been ran by them by the entire of their existence. I get that. But there is a point where you start to become out of date. You start to become, or I want to say, things start to become too much, especially for Virginia McCaskey and the McCaskey family. I think it's starting to become too much, especially in this modern day and age of football and the modern day and age of business, and especially how things have elevated from the start of the league to the 40s, to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and just now to this day. I think the problem is ownership, where ownership, I think, in this scenario with the Chicago Bears case, I think ownership has way too much to do with football decisions, and they are not capable of making football decisions. I will be 100% honest. They had way too much to do with hiring the GM. Well, that's somewhat to do with it. They had way too much say-so on hiring the head coach, because at the end of the day, as much as Matt Eberflus deserved a head coaching job somewhere, maybe just not here in the way that things have been going with Eberflus and the Bears over the past season and 3 games going into this year, something looks like it's missing. Something looks like it's missing as far as philosophies of what Ryan Poles may want to do versus the ownership, because nothing looks different. And it's funny that the guys with the first names, Matt and then Ryan, were the first names of the guys that we had previously, Ryan Poles and Matt Nagy. Then we got Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles. This is odd. That's a very odd thing. Very odd, and it looks like some of the things that have been done are very eerily similar, in my opinion, versus how things are ran as this Bears organization. I'm just saying, and I've been saying this privately and throughout the course of the last couple of years, the Bears would not be a true successful franchise until there's new ownership. That might be just me, but that's how I feel, because I just don't think they're capable of making these football decisions at this point, especially with Mrs. McCaskey and the age. And then you got the only son, George McCaskey, who I don't think is capable of making football decisions at this point. I truly believe it's time for new ownership with the Chicago Bears. And staying from beyond ownership, things that are going on the lower levels, of course, I'm questioning some of these roster moves. Tremaine Edmunds has not made that big of a presence versus trading Roquan Smith, even though I still think Roquan Smith is the better football player than Tremaine Edmunds at this point, and I believe that even going into this free agency, Roquan Smith was the better football player. TJ Edwards, Chase Claypool's been a dud so far. DeMarcus Walker hasn't even shown up. Yannick Ngakoue hasn't made much noise. So I'm starting to question some of these moves so far. As the construction of this Bears roster, I do agree with making moves to try to make your football team better. I will be all for that. It's just, they haven't worked. With the Bears, they just have not worked. The Darnell Wright pick, I think I like that one, even though Jalen Carter was the better football player, better talent. But for the needs of your football team, you need to protect your quarterback. Darnell Wright was the right pick. You could argue Peter Skoronski was still on the board there. You could have argued that, but I'm not going to go anything against the Darnell Wright pick, because at this point, he's been the Bears' best offensive lineman to this point of the season. So I'm not going to argue that. But it's just some of these moves just not work. Now, I agree, trading number 1 overall pick, getting some more cap, or getting a wide receiver 1, to quarterback you were trying to develop, getting more picks, getting more draft assets. I agree with that 100%. So I'm not going to sit there and disagree with that. It's just some of the moves have not worked so far. And DeMarcus Walker got a 3-year deal. That hasn't worked. And let me not forget Nate Davis. He's basically been non-existent on this Bears roster. So, and then on top of that, I like the draft of Gordon. I like the draft of Brisker, so I'm not going to debate those two moves. They've been good. Eddie Jackson, it might be time for him to go with all the injuries and things like that. And it's just like, it just has not worked. Now, coaching, I agree. That's probably the second biggest part of this is coaching this football team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, where Justin Fields it looks like he was regressed. I can see that. It's a part of both him and the coaching, but you don't see really the Bears roll Justin Fields out. You don't see the Bears move in the pocket, even though you see an offensive line that has struggled. And outside of week 1, where they called a lot of screens, in week 2, they called them late, and then they called them back-to-back in a row. It's just so much of this Bears schematically, coaching-wise, it's just not there. Now, Matt Eberflus made his name in the league as a play caller, and he had that Indianapolis Colts defense play a lot better, but it's just not there right now. And you already lose your defensive coordinator, Alan Williams, to that, and I think that's a big problem, especially with the things you have going on in your organization. It's a dumpster fire with coaching at this point right now. I'm not going to sit here and say fire Eberflus at this very moment, but man, something's got to shake. The adjustments that the Bears have made, well, lack thereof in the course of these games, you don't see it. And it's crazy on the offensive side of the ball. It's almost, I'll probably make a separate video about this later on down the line, but is Luke Getsy Matt Nagy 2.0? Because it seems like they're forcing Justin Fields to be a pocket passer. Yes, I think he has more ability to be a pocket passer than Trubisky was in the past, but you still are not taking advantage of some of his best qualities, and that is his athleticism and his mobility to be used as a weapon to keep defenses off and keep defenses honest. You haven't seen much of that throughout these first 3 games of the Bears season. Just haven't seen it. And defensively, you don't see some of these impact guys that you brought in making impacts. You just don't see it. Bears did not have their first turnover until the backups were in against the Chiefs. A team that needs to turn the football over and play complementary football, you just haven't seen it. You haven't seen it from the Chicago Bears team. It's so many issues with the Bears right now. And I think coaching has a lot to do with it, organizational-wise at the top. I think once things change there, you'll start to see more success, not just periodically in one-year increments of 2018, 2010, 06, 01. You'll start to see the consistent line of success, I believe, once new ownership is in. And once I think they step out of the football decision-making, I think things will be better. I think once you make adjustment to your coaching staff, which hasn't worked, then I'll see it be better. I don't, and to be honest with you guys, I don't think we're going to see it from this coaching staff or this roster, the way things have gone right now. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I just don't see it. I pray to God something changes, but there's so many issues with the Bears. Is Fields the guy? We may or may not know. It's still going to take maybe a week or two for me to really be on decided one side. But for me, I think coaching has so much to do with what Fields' issues are. Even though I think you have some talent on that offensive side of the ball, I think schematically and coaching-wise, they just are not put in the best positions to succeed. And I don't think Luke Getsy is the guy to develop a quarterback. And to be honest, I don't think the Bears are an organization that knows how to develop quarterbacks or knows how the quarterback situation should work. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I just got to vent a little bit and get some of this stuff off my chest. This is crazy. Bears are still garbage after all the offseason moves. They're still garbage. Is coaching something to do with it? I personally think so, but I think it starts from the top, and that's ownership. But those are my thoughts. I'm glad I was able to get this off my chest. Whew. Feels good, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.